Hey, everybody. This is In Case You Want to Know. My name's John. We have in the room with us Derek and everybody's favorite podcast host, Mr. Jim Henderson. What's going on, boys?
Well, not much, John. It's
Jim's
good to be
under
back.
Under the weather, goes on vacation, comes home sick, but he's powering through.
Oh, yeah.
So he can spread his knowledge.
Yes. Just don't touch this mic after I, get done licking on it.
We have Lysol. We have Lysol. We've got. We actually have a full bodysuit that John will put on because I'm not in the office today. He'll put his bodysuit on. He'll have his air tank on his back. He'll go in, desanitize.
Yeah. The virus.
Have everybody run through the Silkwood style shower on their way out the door. It'll be fine.
So Derek, you teed something up that piqued my interest, and can you tell us a little bit of what you found and what we're going to try to explore and get into today?
Well, first and foremost, we are not going to guide you on where to invest. So just putting that out there, this is not a guide on where to invest. We don't want to get sued.
JLH Sustainable. JLH Sustainable. Just kidding.
JLH Sustainable does not want to be sued. But what we do want to talk about is because there was a deadline for most companies to reduce their emissions by 2030, that's being pulled back by the Trump administration. And so it's a reset, right, for where to invest when it comes to sustainability. And what's interesting is asset managers here in the U.S. are pulling back on investing in sustainability, while European asset managers are doubling down their efforts and they're still going after that 2030 number. So for those of us in the U.S., there is an opportunity to kind of reset and take a look at where to invest. If sustainability matters to you, you want to put your money into it. And what I'm seeing and what we're seeing is that it's more around risk mitigation from not actually hitting these goals, and how companies, should overcome some of the risk that's associated with, climate change. If you believe in climate change, which we do, how are they going to handle it? And as an investor, where to invest?
There's a lot of talk and some controversy about, a lot of these initiatives that started actually quite a while ago. I mean, we can go back 20, 25 years when the initiatives were first put out there for, first of all, it was more voluntary. You can get these tax incentives if both businesses and individuals. And I'm going back, 15 years or more. And it was a controversial, and it was like 40-something% initially, and then it was designed to fade out as the market became more and more flooded with product and prices were stabilized and it became a competitive market. The idea was that the federal government and other governments, state governments, would pull back on incentivizing these things. But in fact, John, when we did our roof here, remember we were putting addition on, we kind of wanted to wait until the addition got put on before we put the solar on. But they were going to go from 40% tax credit down to 30-something. And if we didn't pull the trigger before the end of the year. So we actually were incentivized to get started before
to act quickly.
Yeah, and then there was talk too that they were going to eliminate it, but that all kind of went away. And of course, with the Inflation Reduction Act, i.e., the Green Deal, that's where some major incentives. I mean, there've been incentives corporately for what they call carbon credits. Is that kind of some of what we're talking about here, Derek, when we talk about businesses that are primed for investing into that are?
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, there is not a mandate. So mandates are gone. There was a lot of investment into, I made the mistake of investing in Plug. Well,
that'd be Plug Power.
Plug Power, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that is, because I'm not familiar.
Plug Power is an American company. Thank you, Google. Plug Power is an American company engaged in the development of hydrogen fuel cell and electrolyzer systems that replace conventional batteries in equipment and vehicles powered by electricity. So they are clearly focused on the next step of EVs all over the place. So Plug Power would have been or is or will be a significant player in the world of EVs.
Yeah, I hear the word hydrogen, and that isn't the same as EV, though, correct?
No, it isn't, but they're talking about this technology in vehicles that are powered by electricity versus gas.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because right now I think it is viable. I have my EV and I charge it when I need to off the solar grid that I have. But uh, the investment opportunities and again, as people are aware, there's been a realignment of what is being pushed as incentives for goals for being green, and these carbon credits, if you will, for corporations, which were enticing investors. Maybe it's they're looking, according to the article that Derek had shared, people are looking for alternative investments, but not wanting to give up completely on the investments that meet the criteria for environment, social, and governance, ESG. There's a formula for ESG that I was looking into and looked fairly complicated, but there are metrics that they put in to measure a company's ESG for investment purposes. And I couldn't really find a whole lot on how that would affect a company like ourselves. But again, projecting big Fortune 100 companies that are looking to do things on a much larger scale for producing energy, for putting up huge buildings or complexes and whatnot that meet certain criteria for these ESG formula that tells the investor this is a good investment because they're on the right track to give the kind of return that they're looking for.
One of the areas that still has steam behind it is the circular economy. We've brought this up before on this podcast, and the whole concept of it is taking waste consumption and turning it into something we can reuse. And anywhere that can happen is an investment opportunity. I think that there's not a person out there, whether you're politically left or politically right, won't say that if you can reuse something, that's not a bad thing. And so that is an area that it seems to be still a focus for investors around the world. And so anything circular economy, reusing, not creating more waste is certainly beneficial. Plus, you're taking something that lowers and depreciates in value, bring it back to life, whatever it may be. And we see this all the time with furniture in our space, where we take furniture that other people get rid of and we can bring it back to life. We've had people in the past that can do that for us and resell it or donate it and let other families continue to use it. And so the circular economy certainly is viable, and anything that's in that area of reusing is a place to invest.
How close are we, do you think, to, and we're just all spitballing here, of course, how close do we think we are to everybody having a Mr. Fusion on the top of the car to put your banana peels in to fill up the tank?
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel. Go ahead, quick, get in the car.
No, Doc, I just got here, okay? Jennifer's here, we're gonna take the new truck for a spin.
I think we're a ways away.
You think so?
I mean, as Derek said, there's a lot of simple things that can be done to reduce the carbon footprint. I was doing some research this morning on this, and Derek, you hit it spot on. It's less. There's a much smaller carbon footprint to reuse or recycle, and I think one of the things that we're focused on is plastic, paper, wood, and steel. So I pulled up some things on steel, and these are stats that I just pulled off a Google search. And so raw steel requires, and again, this is just a side-by-side comparison, that raw steel uses, or material to be turned into a ton of steel, is 6,111 kilowatt hours of energy. And since that's 0.8 pounds of CO2 for that energy, that's 4,684 pounds of CO2 produced for each ton of iron ore from scratch.
So, that's what that's the amount of energy it requires to produce 1 ton of steel.
Yep.
Okay.
And so from raw, but here's recycled. So from recycled, it's only 288 kilowatt hours versus 6,100 kilowatt hours.
That's
So
huge.
I mean, it's a massive energy savings. And I was at a builders conference a few years ago, and we've been talking about using steel and instead of wood, and again, people get caught up in the knowing what they know about building without really looking at the facts. And this one lady really wanted to pick a fight with me because she was an expert builder and I'm not really into building, about it was way cheaper and more cost effective to use wood than it would be to use recycled steel. And I said, there's no way. And I, did the research, and it's clear that if you can replace wood with steel that's recycled, it's a very, very good alternative for material to use in any building process, because almost all steel gets recycled now. There's money to be made recycling steel. And it has a much smaller footprint than cutting down a tree, lest we forget that an average tree will consume 48 pounds of CO2 per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you multiply that times 100, 150, 200 years, every time you cut down a tree, you're cutting down that opportunity for a whole lifetime of CO2 emission, not just savings, but actually taking it out of the air for us. So anyway, everyone's got their arguments, but yeah, you're right, Derek, that recycling is definitely a cheaper way to get things done, not just cheaper, but a much smaller carbon footprint versus doing it from raw.
It is exciting to look at the 3 structures that we've put up now over the last 10 years using almost all recycled steel, and to know that we've had a positive impact on the environment while building these relatively large structures. I mean, I think that's really cool. That helps me sleep at night a little bit.
Well, and for the investors, the money saved, energy bills, that's what they're looking for, and you can't deny it. And we have the data as proof.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question for you guys, because you're younger and you're more hip on this. In looking up this ESG,
Well, nothing if not hip.
Yeah, this ESG thing really kind of got me going down a lot of rabbit holes this morning about what is this formula? How does it calculate? And so I was trying to figure out the formula for social. I get the environmental thing, the carbon footprint, you can track it down, you can go there. What's your take on social? What would you think that would entail? Because I have my own thought and opinion of it. And believe it or not, in a Google search of several pages, there was no real comment about social, but it's part of the formula. So
yeah, techtarget.com defines ESG as, again, as you said, environmental, social, and governance is a framework used to assess an organization's business practices and performance on various sustainability and ethical issues. So I'm guessing the social aspect is those ethical issues largely. What are as a business owner, what's your ethos in terms of sustainability and things along that line?
How do you measure it, though? What do you think, Dirk? I mean, do you measure a company's social responsibility by longevity of staff? I mean, there's so many things that I think of as socially responsible for a company that have little to do with environment. It's more of a consciousness of the importance of people and community, and making that part of the culture of the company. Am I wrong?
Well, it
on
starts
that?
at the top. I mean, in the end of the day, the culture of the business needs to come from the board, the owner, whoever it may be. And there's part of that social part of the ethos, as John put it, of a business. It has to start at the top. right? And you have to
Sure.
make a conscious decision. And so, look, we made a decision when you and I started talking in 2016
Yep.
that when I came here, we were going to digitally transform the business, right?
Yep.
Because you had already built the warehouse and you were thinking about carbon footprint. Well, part of that was getting rid of paper.
Yeah.
And then if you get rid of paper, that helps the environment. And then if you're driving efficiency within the business using technology, which we've done with, at least our sales and marketing department is 100% digital at this point. Once you do that and you're driving efficiency, that's less gas being burned.
Sure.
And we're proving that right now. I mean, I'm moving up the coast and we're taking trucks up the coast that would normally be empty that are going back to New Hampshire.
Right.
They'll be filled with my stuff. And that is saving gas while also we're not doing an extra trip just for me. Luckily, I have flexibility with that, but we're
Right.
able to do it. But
I
that's
think
the
that's
kind
key.
of stuff that operational efficiency in the end of the day and digital transformation drive to the ripple effect of saving money and also saving the environment.
Well, I think you hit it very well, Derek. I think that's one of the key things is flexibility in anything where you're changing status quo and with tyranny of the urgent, I want it today kind of thing. But there's a price to pay for that, and typically, unless you're mega big like Amazon and they've got all the ability to make things very efficient, uber efficient because of the volume. But in our instance, as a small company, and others, millions and millions of other small companies like us, efficiency is very hard because it's scattered. It's not organized, and so to be more efficient, it does reduce the carbon footprint, and that's the kind of what we're talking about. The transition to moving into a more efficient space, I think, is going to require some patience on the consumer level until it becomes more normal. And patience is very, very important.
You brought up Amazon. I just want to bring this up. They just rolled out a subscription model where you will get cheap to free delivery on products that you buy from Amazon. However, you have to pay $14.99 a month in order to get that. Now, if you don't do it, you'll end up paying. I bought a couple lanyards because I'm going to Universal next week, and you have to slide the little QR codes into the lanyards. Anyways, my point is, I bought them, and it was a couple bucks, but they wanted to charge me $6.99 to deliver them if I didn't sign up for the $14.99 a month, and then it would be free. It's new, and I dug into it a little bit for this podcast. And part of the reason why they're doing this is they did make the investment in Rivian electric vans. Yeah. And they put 15,000 of them on the road in 2024, and they're using them. Yeah. There was a cost associated with being sustainable. But when you look at Amazon and you're sitting in a boardroom with Amazon, and Bezos is probably not sitting there, but he's thinking about it, saying, well, we all know how much of the valuation of a business is with subscription models. They're 2 to 5x times revenue, right? Well, what a great way to get a subscription model on top of a subscription model, because everybody's paying 100, 125, whatever it is now for Amazon Prime every year. Well, let's do a dual subscription model and make the shipping be the onus on it, and then say, well, we made an investment in sustainability and delivering these things with a low carbon footprint, but we're not paying for it. You are. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to have a two-time revenue model on top of that. So in this case, sustainability, the investment in it is also driving the valuation of the business. It's just to the detriment of you and I who use Amazon, who I probably won't be using it anymore. I'll go to local businesses instead.
Yeah, as much as we can, we like to support local, and we like it when people support us because we're local. I mean, we're local throughout the country, but we're not a big box. We're not Home Depot. We're not Amazon. We're not Google. But you're right. There are people are willing to invest in the environment if they know that the company is sticking to the core principles of what we're talking about, cutting the carbon footprint down. There's a phrase out there, it's greenscaping, greenscaping. And that's pretty much defines what it is. The companies that say they're going green, but they're not really. I mean, they just want to use the words so that they rank well and they look good to the consumer. But these savvy investors, I think, are really, and again, reading that article that you sent, Derek, savvy investment groups are really up on this, and they are finding ways using AI to vet out companies that are using this greenscaping as a way to,
I think you're referring to greenwashing.
washing, yeah,
Greenwashing.
yeah, greenwashing.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Just to piggyback on what I just told you. So Rivian is delivering 80,000 vans to Amazon by 2030, 16,000 vans per year, because they were going to try to hit that 2030 mandate.
Do you have stock in Rivian? I think we should buy some.
I
right?
do
I
not. But the point is that who's winning on this? Amazon and Bezos. Like, they're making the investment, but they're passing on the cost of this to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening an awful lot. And I think, part of us, being cognizant of this, and investors, hey, listen, if you're an investor, maybe you do need to go and invest in Rivian. Again, I'm not telling you to do that. I am not a wealth advisor, and neither is Jim and John. However, just look at the numbers and look at the data, and Amazon's going to is going to benefit in the end of the day. It's going to be you and I that are going to pay for it. And so what's going to happen at some point here is small companies like us, who are doing the right thing for the environment and for our clients, people are going to start gravitating towards the small guy again, because these big giant conglomerates are passing the cost, and what used to be cheaper to go and buy from Amazon all of a sudden is not. But people have become accustomed to using it, addicted to it. It's the ease of having something show up at your front door. What they're not realizing is they're actually paying more for it now than to go to a local Ace Hardware, if you will.
Yeah, I think there is a push to that. I guess the concept of large investment groups using investment money from large family offices, whatnot, that they want to get a return. They want to see 6, 7, 8%, maybe 10 if they're lucky. They're looking for these companies and they're vetting them. And at the same time, and again, just recapping where we started, is there's pullback. Certainly, open up the floodgates for more oil and more gas supplies, so that the trickle down effect is that per gallon gas drops and people are saving money at the pump. And I'm all for the consumer saving money, but I think there's a happy medium. There has to be, because you can't make a transition into the concept of just all of a sudden just being 100% electric. The grid could never support even 30%.
Right.
30% could never do it. And so I think that we got blindsided. There was a lot of, close to $1 trillion, if not more, that was allocated to put these charging stations in. And, you hear the stories, such and such a company got, $100 million to put in charging stations, and they put in 5. What did they do with the rest of the money? Well, a number of these companies have gone bankrupt, by the way. They just took the money and said, we can't do it. And where it went, we don't know. But knowing what I know about electricity and how many gazillion megawatts you're going to need to electrify America.
But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. 1.21 gigawatts!
The grid doesn't support it yet. The answer, as I've said before, is microgrid technology, and it's there. It's just, it has to get implemented. It takes time.
Can I just put a bow tie on?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
We're really circular economy and reusing is where investors are focusing right now. Disruptive technologies, innovative technologies to drive operational efficiency is where they're focused in on. We didn't even get to touch on health and wellness, food, water supply. That's another area that they're investing in sustainable solutions there. And then obviously infrastructure and resource security, and making sure that, again, there are folks out there that do believe that the global warming is not a hoax, and investors are seeing that and are making investments right now in securing their physical assets. and making sure that everything is resilient. Their properties and the things that they have are resilient to hurricanes and natural disasters.
Well, with that, I say we wrap this conversation because we could meander through this for hours.
Well, there's another episode coming up.
Exactly. Yeah. As always,
In
a pleasure, guys.
In case our viewers wanted to know, we'll be back with some more later.
See you, gents.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.